Next, we need to square out one edge of your picture frame board. Now, we don't know if this end is square or not. It depends on the board it cut from, and I didn't cut any of them square for you. So we need to square that up first. On the miter saw, line up your board so that it's on the very edge of the blade. Cutting off just an eighth, that's plenty. All we want to do is get a nice 90-degree angle here on the side. So line up the blade with the edge, let it all the way up, then go ahead, pull down and cut through. Back at your spot here, now we need to lay out the lengths of our picture frame components. You have these measurements in your plans, so reference your plans for the total length of the side pieces and the total length of the top and the bottom. When you're measuring these out, use a ruler. Don't use a tape measure for this. The tape measures here at school have been dropped and abused, so none of the hooks are very accurate. Use a ruler here. So I'm going to first lay out the measurement of my side piece. Again, reference your plans for this. I'm going to follow the ruler, mark the side, just place a little mark there with a pencil. Then I can take the square, line up the square with the top of the board so it's sitting snugly against it, and then mark that across with the square like this. Once it's marked, I'll be back over here on the miter saw. An important thing to remember is that this blade has a thickness. It's 1/8 of an inch thick. So if we cut directly on the line, our measurement is going to be off. We need to make sure the blade is on the scrap side of the line. So the right side of this blade should line up with the edge of the line. So I'm going to line it up, without pulling the trigger, get it as close as I can get it, let it all the way up, pull the trigger and cut through. Back at the table here, let's line out or measure out that next side piece. So take your ruler, place it on the board and mark that same length. Then take your square and mark that all the way down the board. Before you cut, take that first side piece, line it up, and make sure those measurements are exactly the same. If they're not, you either made a mistake in laying out this one or in laying out this one. So double check those against your plans before you cut. Back on the miter saw again, I'm going to line up my blade so it's on the scrap side of the line without turning it on. Let the saw up, pull the trigger, and cut down again. Okay, so here's my second side piece. Back at the table again, make sure you've got a nice sharp pencil for this process so you get nice crisp lines. Now I'm going to measure out the length of my top and bottom pieces. Again, reference your plans for this. Use the ruler, measure over, find that spot for my top piece, and I'm going to mark that line all the way down through using a square. Back to the miter saw again now. I'm going to line up my blade again. Remember where? On the scrap side of the line. Go ahead and cut down, let it all the way up and cut down. Then back to the table one more time. I'm going to mark out my last side piece now. Or top piece, excuse me, top and bottom piece. So mark it and strike a line using the square. Yep, that lines up. So this final cut is a little bit different. If we look at the line location here on the board, I have a lot more to hang on to over here. So this time I'm going to put the board I want to keep on the left-hand side and hold that with my hand rather than do it like we have been and put this short piece here. This way there's more space for my hand. So I'm going to line up the blade so it's on the scrap side of the line. This time for me, the scrap side is over here on this side. So make sure you check that your blade is on the correct side of the line. I'm going to line it up, let the saw all the way up, and then cut down. This extra material here, that can go in the scrap bin.